You're home alone. The lights go out. Maybe it's just a tripped breaker. Nothing is actually wrong. And yet your heart rate spikes before your brain has even finished the sentence, "The power went out." You freeze, you listen, you strain your eyes into a room you have walked through 1,000 times as if it has suddenly become a different place. You've felt this before. Everyone has. And you've probably brushed it off as irrational. A leftover glitch, something a grown adult shouldn't feel in their own living room. Here's what almost nobody tells you. That fear isn't a glitch. It isn't irrational at all. It's a memory. Not a memory you can consciously recall, but one written into your nervous system by hundreds of thousands of years of a very specific, very real threat. For most of human history, the dark didn't just feel dangerous. It was one of the leading causes of death. To understand why your body still reacts this way, we have to go back to a time before humans were the ones doing the hunting. In 1924, a fossilized skull was pulled out of a lime quarry in South Africa. It belonged to a young child, roughly 3 years old, who lived over 2 million years ago. For decades, scientists assumed this Taung Child had died from disease or misadventure. But when researchers looked closely at the skull in later years, they found something else. Puncture marks and scratch patterns matching the talons of a large bird of prey. An eagle had killed this child and carried it off. This wasn't an isolated case. In the 1970s and 80s, a South African researcher named C.K. Brain spent years studying bones pulled from a cave system called Swartkrans. He found early hominin skulls with 2 puncture holes, spaced apart at a very particular distance. When he compared them to leopard skulls, the spacing matched almost exactly the gap between a leopard's canine teeth. These early humans hadn't just died near predators. They had been carried into caves and eaten by them. For a huge stretch of our evolutionary history, we were not the apex predator. We were prey. And prey animals that survive share one trait: an oversensitive threat detection system. It is far cheaper evolutionarily to flinch at a shadow that turns out to be nothing than to ignore a shadow that turns out to be a leopard. But here's where it gets more specific. Why the dark exactly? Why not just fear predators in general? Because darkness didn't just hide predators. It erased your entire advantage against them. Human eyes are built for daylight. We have excellent color vision and depth perception in bright light, but our night vision is mediocre compared to almost every animal that hunted us. Big cats, hyenas, wolves, all of them evolved eyes with a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum that amplifies whatever light is available. That's the reason animal eyes seem to glow when a flashlight hits them at night. Ours don't glow because we don't have that layer. In the dark, the predator could see you. You could not see it. That asymmetry is the entire story. Darkness didn't create danger. It removed your one tool for detecting danger before it was too late. And this is where it gets worse. Fossil and cave evidence from multiple sites across Africa and Europe shows that humans and large predators regularly use the exact same shelters, the same caves, the same rock overhangs, just at different points in time. A cave that was a safe human campsite during the day could become a hyena den or a leopard's feeding site at night. Layers of bone deposits inside these caves, some belonging to humans, some belonging to prey animals, sometimes show up mixed together in the same sediment layer, meaning the site was shared sequentially by both species. You weren't just afraid of the dark in the open, you were afraid of what might walk into your own shelter while you slept. So early humans didn't fight this fear. They engineered around it, and the tool they used was fire. Fire changed the entire equation of nighttime survival. It's not just that fire provided warmth. Large predators are, for the most part, instinctively wary of open flame. A fire at the mouth of a cave functioned as a wall that no stone or wood barrier could match. Archaeological sites show hearths positioned deliberately at cave entrances and shelter openings, not deep inside, placed exactly where they would do the most good as a predator barrier. And this changes how we should think about the campfire. It wasn't just a comfort. It was quite literally the only thing standing between your sleeping body and being eaten. Here's something stranger. Some researchers who study modern hunter-gatherer groups have noticed that when the fire burns low in the middle of the night, people don't just get colder. They get noticeably more anxious, more alert, quieter. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner, who studied the Ju Huanzi Bushmen of the Kalahari, documented how nighttime around the fire operated on a completely different emotional register than daytime. Conversation changed. People spoke more carefully. And the fire itself, its size, its light radius, functioned as a kind of shared instrument the whole group was tracking without ever discussing it out loud. You've felt an echo of this. Sit around a campfire today and watch what happens the moment someone lets it die down. Someone always gets up to feed it, almost without thinking. That isn't a modern habit. That's ancient risk management running on autopilot. Now here's the part that explains something you've probably experienced, but never connected to any of this. The specific shape of nighttime fear. It's rarely a fear of the dark itself, as pure blackness. It's a fear of not knowing what's in the dark. Studies on nyctophobia, clinical fear of the dark, consistently find that it's not the absence of light that disturbs people. It's the uncertainty the absence creates. Your brain, deprived of visual confirmation, doesn't default to, there is nothing there. It defaults to filling the gap with the worst-case possibility. A coat on a hook becomes a shape. A creak becomes footsteps. This isn't a flaw in how your brain processes darkness. It is precisely, how a brain built by 2 million years of nighttime predation should behave. An animal that defaulted to probably fine every time visibility dropped to zero did not get the chance to pass on that trait. And this is where it gets stranger still. This fear didn't stay biological. It became cultural. Every single human society we know of, without exception, has folklore specifically about nighttime danger. Creatures that come out after dark. Spirits that only move once the fire dies. Rules about not wandering far from camp after sunset. These stories exist on every continent, developed independently by groups that never had contact with each other. That's not a coincidence. That's a warning system encoded into story, because story travels further and lasts longer than a single person's memory. A myth about a monster in the dark is, functionally, a piece of survival data wrapped in a form a child will actually remember and repeat. The fear didn't just live in your amygdala. It got copied into language, then handed down for thousands of generations, long after fire and shelter and eventually electric light made the original threat almost obsolete. Which brings us to right now. You live in a world with streetlights, deadbolts, motion sensor floodlights, and a phone flashlight in your pocket at all times. Statistically, in most places, you are safer at 2 a.m. in your own home than almost any of your ancestors ever were at any hour of any day. And yet, the moment the power goes out, none of that safety record matters. Your body doesn't run a cost-benefit analysis based on current crime statistics or the fact that leopards don't live in your neighborhood. It runs code that is 2 million years old. Code that was field-tested against actual predators eating actual members of your species. And that code says, darkness plus uncertainty equals danger, full stop. So the next time the lights go out and your pulse jumps before you've even had a coherent thought, you're not being irrational. You're not broken, and you're not a nervous person overreacting to nothing. You are, for one brief moment, exactly as alert as every single ancestor who managed to survive long enough to have children, all the way back to a small hominin child in a South African cave who wasn't quite careful enough, and an old cave system where leopard teeth still fit perfectly into human skulls. The dark hasn't changed in 2 million years. You have. Just maybe not as much as you thought.